about CE5 and extraterrestrial contact, download my new book, now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and 14 other platforms. Book authored by Donald Ledesma. CE5, Frequencies of Contact.
I'm just skeptical about the abduction part of the story. To that extent, it wasn't like a visceral reality experience. It wasn't like a true memory. And that's what I had trouble with for years and years and years. Certainly, I shared the experience with the rest of the guys, and they might take that as remembering a real experience. But it's not. The encounter is real. I know that.
I actually do agree with that because I think the panic, the fear, the paralysis, even the anger, anxiety, all of that, I think they really enjoy.
Strand podcast with Donald Ledesma. For the dopest paranormal documentaries this side of the Milky Way, visit DocksideMedia.com for links to all our films on major streaming platforms. Till next time, keep on keeping on.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Alien Strand Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Ledesma, and welcome to today's show. Yes, it's going to be an interesting one. I hope you guys are really enjoying the latest content that I've been having here on Alien Strand Podcast. You can get us on 29 platforms of audio, okay? iHeartRadio, Spotify, CastBox, Deezer, Apple Podcasts. You can even ask Alexa. She plays Alien Strand Podcast. Spotify, especially Spotify. You can catch us there. And, Podbean, you name it, we're out there. Whichever's your favorite audio podcast platform that you have out there. Go check us out, man. We're there on all of these platforms to give you as much information as we can, all right? Because it's about ufology, the paranormal, Bigfoot, all these good things that we talk about here on Alien Strand Podcast. That's because, it's very informative. We talk about the unknown, and because we think you should know these things, right? Should we all know what's going on out there in our skies? Hello? I think so. So anyway, don't forget, catch our films, The Middle. Part 3 is out. It's been out for about a month now on Amazon Prime, right? So you're going to see a thing there. It's going to say all my links, right? For Alien Strand, social media, everything. Go there and you'll see the link there for The Middle Part 3 on Amazon Prime. Go check it out there. I put the price down, pretty low, enough for anybody to afford to go and watch it. After you watch the podcast. No, not the podcast. Watch the documentary, right? Check it out. Tell me what you think. Give me a thumbs up at the very end. If you can, write me a review on Amazon Prime. I really appreciate it. This helps go a long way on spreading disclosure information to a lot of people that have been affected by extraterrestrials, UFOs, spiritual, supernatural, things like that. It all kind of goes together in these films, okay? So watch part 1 on Amazon Prime, part 2 is on Amazon Prime. Part 3 is on Amazon Prime as well. Hello. They're all there. Go check those out. Actually, you can go to our YouTube page. We have the middle part 1 there for free. Go check it out there if you want to. I'm giving you this one for free, the middle part 1 on our YouTube. If you please click a like and subscribe. Of course, these podcasts are playing out there on our YouTube page as well. All right, so we're live on Rumble. We're live on everywhere on video. Okay, so when we do the video, today's not video, it's just audio. But when we do video, we do on Twitch, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and whatever decides to pop up every once in a while, whatever platform wants to take us or kick us out, right? That's what they do. Hey, I can't stop them from doing that. I hope you guys are having an amazing day today, as we all are here at Alien Strand. And like I said, please go check out all those documentaries. Speaking of that, so I had somebody from the United Kingdom, one of my friends out there in the United Kingdom, they sent me an instant messenger a little while ago. They said, hey, I just saw you come out on Roswell at 75 on that documentary. And I was like, yeah, I'm in that one. They're like, I didn't even know you were in this. And hey, there's my buddy. I talk to him all the time on Facebook. Yeah, that's me. I come out, I actually do a couple of appearances on that film. That was for, that's a documentary for Fox TV that I was able to do in 2022. Man, it just seems like yesterday that I did that. But hey, if you want to see my ugly face on there, go check out Roswell at 75. I'm on there. If you guys want to look me up, just go to IMDb, type in Donald Ledesma. You'll see all my films, all my stuff that I've been in, and what I've been actually working on. Okay. And I just do this for disclosure. I'm not trying to be this famous person, yada, yada, yada. No, I'm just like you. I talk like you. I want to be around everybody. I'm just a normal guy, all right? Just like everybody else out there. So anyway, I hope you guys really had an amazing week so far. It's almost the weekend. Yay. But we do have, I've been getting a lot of phone calls, especially today. Today is actually Thursday. And I've had some friends in the United Kingdom and in Scotland have been having, and here in Florida as well, have been having a lot of this activity as far, not UFOs, but military and aircraft activity are going in circles around their homes around that area, like small. And then they go look at the app, right, on airplane activity. They can see the patterns that these airplanes are flying in, right? And it's in a circular motion, right? Like they're looking for something. And there's one in in Scotland. We have a friend that she's out there. Her name's Heather McLennan. She contacted the group today. She said, "Hey man, we've had some activity out here, UFOs, and we've had aircraft in the area, circling the area, and there's been something really strange going on out here." She goes, I saw the helicopters and the airplanes. I was able to shoot video of that, but then I didn't think it was good. I deleted it, and I shouldn't have, because then she started seeing the app, and people were posting on the app after that. In other words, she accidentally deleted her evidence. It's okay. It's okay, Heather. We love you, man. It happens to people. Don't worry about it. A lot of the data. It did get recorded out there. So as for that, we were looking into everything that's happening, right? And why is it happening to a lot of these ASDP representatives, right? And that was the strange thing. It had me thinking today. So I told everybody out there in ASDP land, I said, hey, man, if you see this happening around there, download an electronic magnetic field meter. If you have an iPhone or an Android, you can get one for free out there. It's an EMF reader. And I said, go check these readings. Go out there, walk the field or wherever they're at. And it just kind of take a reading in the area and see if the electronic magnetic fields on that meter goes off the chain there, off its little numbers, right? And let's see if there's anything happening as far as the extraterrestrial realm. Because, hey, maybe, just maybe, a portal might be opening up somewhere in these areas. Hey, did you ever think about that? I don't know, man. That's a possibility that these things are happening around us daily, right? Especially now, lately, right? It's just like, wow. can we make, figure out exactly what's going on in our skies, right? Of course, they got their military crafts out there. The helicopters are out there. As soon as we start seeing UFOs up in the skies, okay, so today we're going to be talking about the paradox of UFOs, and I'm getting into that. I'm getting there. But I just want to kind of tell you that what leads up to that, the momentum of that paradox, right? And usually it's a visualization of what we're seeing up in the skies, and we're doing data reporting of what's exactly happening in your area in this timeline, right? Not in a different one, but we're able to get these readings, and which gives us more proof of that more than one person is actually seeing this phenomenon occur, right? And it's happening in real time. Right? It's not something that was recorded previously days before. It's happening in real time. People are catching this in real time, right? So when we talk about the paradox, what is the paradox? You always hear these scientists or these ufologists out there, or people that are in quantum physics, talk about the paradox paradigm. They kind of seem to know that what leads to that word, right? And I'm just going to kind of give you a little definition of the paradox. And it says it's a logically self-contradictory statement, or statement that runs contrary to one's expectations, right? And that statement that despite apparently valid reasoning for true or apparent true premises, leads to seemingly self-contradictory or logically unacceptable conclusions. That sounds like an AI wrote that, right? Kind of weird. But anyway, it kind of tells you that that maybe that the things that we're saying have to kind of relate on what we're saying. In other words, if it's true, and it kind of goes together. This is what it's telling you, right? It's kind of it's contradictory, right? What's happening. Right, so it says a paradox usually involves contradictory yet interrelated elements that exist simultaneously and persist over time, right? Which I was talking about. So this is happening in ufology, which is things that are happening again and again, and it's happening at the same time, right? A lot of times these UFOs or extraterrestrials pop up at the exact same time. You ever think about this just for a minute? When you ever woke up in the morning or at the middle of the night and you're looking right at your clock or on your stand there, and it says 3 o'clock in the morning, straight up 3:00, right? Or 2:59, and it just clicks to 3 when you wake up, right? Isn't that strange how that happens, right? Over and over and over, like something that's repeated over and over. And how do you explain that? It's happened to me like maybe 3 days out of the week where I've actually woke up and seen that, right? Over and over. Like my wife, she always says, I always see 11:19 comes over and over and over, right? And is that something that's telling you that's something that's going to happen? Or a 10:19. So it's 10:19, right? So, which is exactly her birthday. And it keeps popping up everywhere we go, or even in our watch, or everything we're watching, it pops up. So, which is a kind of strange phenomenon that's happening around us, which tend to think that ufology, extraterrestrials, and these crafts, even ghosts, paranormal, anything para, right, will happen at these same exact times, right? Where we're kind of locked into this dimension where it overlaps into another one, right? Almost like what I'm trying to say is like a layer. Like, let's just say you fold a page, another page on top, another page on top, and you put like a little, let's just say you drill a little hole in all 3 pages, right? And you just open the page, but the hole is in the same place. So this is basically what I'm talking about here. That this is the possibility of what we're talking about. And what people tend to think that these paradox, some people think that we're just making it up, it doesn't exist, that it's a possibility of what is out there in our minds, right? They always think, where y'all guys are just nuts, right? No, that is not it. That is not it. It's because things are happening to us as human beings every day that we just can't explain. And how do we explain them, right? It's by talking about these events that occur daily. Like I just talked about this 3 o'clock in the morning, waking up and just freaking out like, dude, does this happen to you? Yeah. Happens to me a lot, right? And what brings us to that, right? So there is another word for this paradox. It's called the Fermi paradox, right? And this is a discrepancy between the lack of conclusive evidence of advanced extraterrestrial life, right, and the apparent high likelihood of its existence. In other words, this just means, when they say Fermi paradox, it just means that there's not enough evidence for you to prove that there is extraterrestrial life and that it exists, right? So there was an article in 2015 that says, if life is so easy, someone from somewhere must have come calling by now, right? And these are the people that are just believers or non-believers, to where they just ask these questions over and over, right? Why haven't we seen them yet? But we are seeing them. Hello? Just you haven't seen it, right? So, and these are our, as people that are ufologists, people that are studying ufology or extraterrestrial or Bigfoot or whatever that's out there, we are able to see these things more and more because as researchers, we research this daily, right? So we get to see the evidence that's out there, put out evidence every day. Of course, some may be AI, which I can see that already. I can almost spot an AI photo or video right away. So I know the difference already between AI and all that good stuff, right? First it was CGI, right? Oh my God, we went through a few years of CGI, and then now AI. Here we go. So AI starting to make these videos, and so now there's something else for us to fight with or about. Anyhow, so there's a Italian-American physicist named Enrico Fermi, right? His name is associated to the paradox because of the casual conversation of the summer of 1950 with fellow physics, right? So this is while they were having lunch, the men discussed a recent UFO reports and the possibility of faster than light travel, right? The conversation moved to other topics until during lunch, Fermi bursted out, "But where is everybody then?" Right? And that's where that came from, right? And there have been many attempts to resolve the Fermi paradox, as suggested that intelligent extraterrestrial beings are extremely rare, that a lifetime of such civilization is short, or that they exist, but various reasons and humans have seen no evidence, right? Which are these guys. Of course, we have over and over and over, especially here on Alien Strand, because this is what we do. We show people, especially on our video podcasts, we show everybody the video evidence that's out there that people are catching. Oh my God, there was one recently, but I'm going to show this tonight live. If you guys have a chance, tune in live tonight here on Alien Strand Podcast on Rumble, YouTube, and Twitch, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to be showing some videos and going through these things, but not today. Today I'm talking about something completely different. And I just want you guys to understand that these things, as far as us as researchers, are real. Because we bring the evidence out. We bring the evidence out in documentaries. Other researchers are doing the same thing today, right? Take a quick sip of my coffee because I love drinking coffee. Anyway, so this, as researchers, this is what we do on a daily basis, right? We find the evidence, and then we make sure that we can at least research that evidence and make sure that somebody else didn't make it up or whatever, and try to get the authenticity of the video. from the author or wherever it came from, right? Because these stories that we're seeing on Facebook or Instagram or X or anywhere out there, on TikTok, that there's a lot of these stories out there that we're not catching out here. You have to really be involved in a lot of these groups in order to find these videos out there that are kind of hidden gems, if you kind of think about it sometimes. Because I just looked at my Google Photos catalog, and I have over 6,000 videos and photos. And I'm going to tell you about most of those photos, about a quarter of it is my family and myself pictures. The rest is all ufology and videos. So that just tells you exactly how much content and videos are out there of evidence and proof. And I only keep the ones that I know that is actual proof, right? That would show proof that extraterrestrial life does exist, which is the Fermi paradox, which kind of brings that to a different conclusion in our eyes, or as a researcher of ufology, because we're not using the Fermi paradox, right? Ours is the actual true events of an actual encounter, or the true evidence of something happening, right? And I told a story last week about this woman on Facebook, that how when she was younger, 9-10 years old, and of course she's older now, they're in their 40s or 50s now, but that they encountered something in Scotland, right? And it's something that was in the trees that had glowing eyes, and her and like 4 of the friends, it hit them telepathically, tell them, I'm not going to hurt you. And that's all they remember. And then all of a sudden they're in a field somewhere just walking, like the rest of it got wiped away. Like, what does that, right? And how does it do that? And these are the stories that make us believe that it's not a Fermi paradox. It's an actual true case of an extraterrestrial. And how do we prove it, right? But in that story, she said that later on, as they grew up, she ended up bumping into her friends later on in life and asked them, do you remember that day when we were walking by the railroad tracks and we had that dog and the dog went nuts, and then the other one already answered in front of her, saying, yes, I remember seeing the eyes. I'll never forget the eyes. This is what the friend told him as they were adults later on, right? So this was not something that was imagined or thought of. It's something that actually happened. And they got to experience that, right? So there was this, let's say this story happened about it says July 1st, 1965. It was out in France. And the farmer's name, it was a farmer that was out there in the fields. His name was Maurice Massey, right? It says that day that this event happened, it was like a normal day for this farmer. He was working long hours. He was up at 5 o'clock in the morning, jumped on his tractor after eating some breakfast, and decided to work in his lavender fields out there, right? So, but during this time, he had noticed that before this event occurred, a lot of things were happening on his farmland, like vandalism, things like that. So he was kind of aware that somebody was messing up his fence or messing with his lavender plants out there. And so he just went on farming on that regular morning day, but he knew something in the back of his mind was actually that happened a few times before, and he just thought Somebody's vandalizing my stuff. Now, I might catch him one of these days, right? He says, might have been some kids or something playing out there. So this guy he used to be a French former fighter for the French resistance. And he decided, he goes, if I ever caught these culprits, he would teach them a stern lesson, right? So about 6 a.m., he stopped his tractor, take a real quick cigarette break, and he heard some strange whistling noise coming from the other side of the hill. So he jumped off his tractor, and he trotted around the hillside to investigate. He says, I saw this egg-shaped object, gleaming silver metal, mounted on 6 metal legs on a thick central support. He says, it's about the size of a small van. But he says one more interest that he took, that there was 2 boys aged about 8 years old who were nearby pulling a lavender plant out of the ground. And they had their backs towards him, right? So they didn't see him. So he was just thinking, I already caught these guys, right? I caught these vandals. So he crept towards them. He says, when I was about 15 feet from these boys, one of them seemed to hear me. Then the figure stood up and turned around, then quickly whipped out a small gun-shaped object and pointed it at Massey. He says the farmer stopped in alarm. He says then he realized that he had just been paralyzed and couldn't move. So then he said, I saw the second figure also stood up. He says, I could see that they weren't boys, but bizarre entities. He says each figure stood about 4 feet tall, with thin, slender bodies and limbs. They seemed to be wearing boots, and they were wearing some kind of shorts around their groin area. And they had this tightly fitting green overalls. He says their heads were oval and pointy chin with small ears. He says their ears were large, an oval shape, slanting up to the side of the face. Their mouths were like thin slits without lips. He says then the figures started making some grunting noises, which he took to their speech, right? He says strangely their mouths didn't move. The sound seemed to be coming from the throat area. The first figure that had pointed the gun at him had a pouch on his side, on his belt. He says the 2 figures moved towards the egg-shaped object. A sliding door opened on the side, and the 2 figures entered. He says they did not climb in, but they seemed to float up from the ground. He says the door slid shut. The object began to emit a whistling noise that had attracted my attention from the beginning. There was a dome on the top of the object, and a window appeared. And he says I could see the figures peering out of one of them. Then the window closed. The object rose vertically into the air, about 60 feet. Then whistling noise, then stopped. Then the craft disappeared into the distance towards the village of Manosek. He says, at that point, I just became worried. Because I was disabled and I thought I was going to die. He says it was about 20 minutes later, then he regained the use of his body. He says, I finally felt confident of moving. I was able to move. He says, I started walking at that point towards the village. I stopped at a local cafe that was opening up for business. Then I blurted out my story. He says the cafe owner called the police. So they went back to the area where this egg-shaped UFO had landed, and they noticed that all the lavenders had died in that general area where this craft had landed. In other words, it was emitting some kind of radioactive charge. And they were just in awe of the story that he gave. Of course, nobody ever believes you at that point. So everyone was scratching their heads at that point because of the story that he gave them. But later on, more people almost had the same similar story to what he gave. And he says these beings, whatever they were, they seemed to be less hostile. And he says their particular interests were mainly like in plants or crops. And the strange floating movements of them boarding the craft over and over went through my mind. And that is the story of a visual encounter, right? This is something that will never leave your mind on July 1st, 1965. So then how do we explain the paradox there? That other extraterrestrial life does not exist. The Fermi paradox, really, in reality. Because in his statement, Enrico Fermi, he says, but where is everybody? And that was proof that years later, after he says that these things do exist. And the general paradox of everything else is they seem to think that there's a falsehood of what's in between, right? Of what we're saying and what philosophers say and using that word. But in reality, these stories don't lie. They tell you exactly what's happening in our skies above our heads, within the earth, within these caves, the paranormal activity that happens to folks, as talking to deceased people that walk up to people and you see them on camera and they're having a conversation with somebody that's not standing there, right? What paradox is that? And how do you explain that to people, right? We've seen these on Facebook over and over. There's a security guard there talking to somebody in the hallway. And the other woman that's monitoring him on the other side on camera. gets on the radio and tells him, "Who are you talking to?" He goes, "Well, I'm talking to this woman that's standing here. She's asking me questions." She says, "There's nobody standing there. What are you talking about?" He goes, "I'm looking right at her." He says, "No, there's nobody there in front of you on camera." And he starts backing up slowly. End of video, right? I believe this is what happens to people as well with extraterrestrials. That these extraterrestrials and UFOs can manifest themselves this way as well. To where they show themselves visibly and invisibly to others, right? To where I talked about this on the last podcast, that they can only show themselves to people that they want to be seen. Almost like they can tap into your psyche in a sense. And I think the only reason that they have this this ability to do this is because these are my personal thoughts. I think that they're so far advanced. And I'm not talking technological. I'm just talking about their brains, their psyche, that they've opened up something to where they know how to tap into a dimension or tap into a human's thinking process to talk to you without even moving their lips, right? And let this person hear what they're saying without talking. So, and I believe it's because it's this extra dimension that they're in. They can jump in and out of or walk amongst us in this invisibility kind of cloaking device that they have, to where they can just show themselves as far as maybe some of these I'm not saying every single one of these. I'm just saying some of these extraterrestrials can tap into your psyche and they can actually mess with you in that sense. To show you things that are real and things that are not real, right? We've all heard these stories of these children up in Africa where this craft landed, these two extraterrestrials came out, weird looking ones, big eyes, and they gave them images of destruction and what we were doing to our planet, right? But these are the images that they were putting in their brains, right? So how is it that they can do this? And we've been asking this question over and over, but we all know that the industrial complex has had a piece of that already and have actually contributed to that as well. So maybe someday we'll get the answer to that and why on some of these extraterrestrials. We know these things do exist. We've seen them over and over and over up in the skies. So this paradox is real with UFOs and extraterrestrials. And we know that they live and walk amongst us every day. This is something that is a given, right? And then how do we explain this to people without us sounding crazy? Well, we go through these groups that are welcome to these values of extraterrestrial contact, and will sit there and listen to your story without judging you right away, right? Now I've heard some stories out there, and I can tell you right now, at least I'm not a person that believes in everything that everybody says. No, that's not me. I sit there and I listen to it, and I listen to their stories, whether it's this day, this next day, whatever day, and then I put it all together, right? And to get the big picture. Because I know when someone is actually blowing smoke, and I know when somebody's not, right? And some of these stories that I have heard have literally, you can make films out of these things, right? Because not because they're not true. It's because it's hard to imagine of how this is done or what's happening to them at these moments. That's that you don't believe exactly what they're experiencing, right? And that's the strangeness of an extraterrestrial. And when you encounter one face to face, right? And that's very rare. That is very rare. We'll see these UFO crafts up in the skies everywhere, all day, 24 hours a day, right? All over the world. But it's these little guys, the extraterrestrial, that is the pivotal moment in your life if you get into contact with one of these things, that it changes you, and it changes your lifestyle. It changes everything about you. It puts you in a different context in your mind, right? Your thinking goes completely different. And a lot of us call this the Great Awakening moment, right? And it could be an awakening moment to where something does happen to you and your mind decides to waken up to things that you don't usually think about, right? And this happens to a lot of ufologists or people that are experiencing these encounters, contactees, that they go through this. They go through this great awakening moment to where they can't understand it or embrace it. It's hard to embrace because the confusion sets in right away. The anger sets in right away. You got to think about this for a minute. That if these things are bothering you nightly terrors, right? I'm talking about scratches, waking up in the middle of the night. You're only getting 2-3 hours of sleep per night. That will catch up to you by the end of the week, and that's going to make you into a very angry person, right? Because you have not had your rest. So this is where the anger sets in, right? The understanding of what's happening, and then you're trying to figure out, who do I talk to make sure that I am speaking to the right person, to where I'm not judged right off the bat, right? So now there's groups out there for that. Alien Strand Disclosure Project is one. We will not turn anybody away. I will not turn anybody away. I help as many people as possible through these turmoils and sometimes restless days and nights for them, right? Because this is hard for them to understand exactly what's happening to them. So these stories I just gave you today are the exact pivotal moments of what happens to a person's life when least expected. And the great awakening happens, right? Slowly but surely. And the plot will thicken more and more. And this is what Alien Strand is about. It's about giving you the information on how to deal with this when it comes to extraterrestrials, UFOs, Bigfoot, paranormal, anything out there like that. Is to help you and give you the understanding of what's occurring to you and how to live with it, right? Because once you're attached, you're attached. It's almost hard to detach. You can't. It's like I talked about the CE5, right? It's a great thing, if you want to get involved with CE5ing, and to know that there is a extraterrestrial realm or something out there from outside of our universe that does exist. Because when you do a CE5, these things come out, right? And they show themselves to you using laser pointers, everything like that. But at the same time, you're opening Pandora's box. And you have to figure out if you're ready to step over that line, right? I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm not saying it in a good way. I'm just telling you like it is. I'm not here to sugarcoat nothing. You can see these things from a distance, which is fine. But once you start getting closer and closer, it'll never go away, right? And just hope that these things can stay at a distance from you instead of bothering you every evening or every night or when you sleep or they attack you or take you, right? So we don't want that happening to anybody out there. You can still keep these things at a distance. You can be interested in who they are. There's different races from, I'm talking extraterrestrial races from all over the place. Different parts of our universe really show up here because they know there's life here, right? And I'm sure they show up in different places too. Maybe Kepler. Hey, that's a possibility, right? We won't see it in our lifetime, but maybe in the next life, right? So that might be a good thing. And just enjoy life as it is today. Be good. Watch these things from a distance. I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast and everything that I told you today. Amazing stories. I love these old stories, right? Because everything's so well documented. Dates, times, everything's there, exactly what happened. They go into detail exactly what they saw. And detail is the best thing, man. The best thing. All right, guys, that is my time here on Alien Strand Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast and the stories today. This is our audio podcast, not video, audio. So if you can, go to all my links. You'll see it in the description below on this podcast. You'll see all the films there. You can find Alien Strand everywhere on that list. There's a long list there to see Alien Strand Podcast. All our films, books are there. All our social media pages are there. Follow us everywhere. Give us a like. Give us a thumbs up. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast here on Alien Strand. We've been doing this since 2019, believe it or not. And I love doing this. It's my passion because I love being informative and giving people the information that they need sometimes, man, because they need it. You guys need it, man. I know I do. I know I do. All right, guys. Until then, you guys have yourselves a good day. Have yourselves a good evening. And have yourselves a good night.
What's up, guys? This is Mike Beavers from The Theory, and you are listening to Alien Strand Podcast, the dopest UFO alien podcast out there. And if you want to find out about me, just go on YouTube and search UFOs over U of O or The Theory with Mike Beavers. Stay tuned, guys.
About CE5, an extraterrestrial contact. Download my new book, now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and 14 other platforms. Book authored by Donald Ledesma. CE5, Frequencies of Contact.